Mem is a young woman who appears on a makeup reality show, but hides a deep secret. She suffers from dissociative identity disorder and, under extreme pressure, assumes another personality. This condition arose from a prominent scar on her face, which she always hides with heavy makeup, believing it to be ugly. Early on, she gets a job and meets Shenji, an attractive young man who shamelessly demands that Mem pay for his bus fare after forgetting her card. He never returns the money, which causes Mem to take an immediate dislike to him. What she doesn't know is that Shenji is the owner of one of the biggest cosmetics brands on the market. His main goal with the company is to create products that hide scars, an obsession born from a trauma. As a child, he accidentally injured a friend's face. At one point, Mem ends up putting makeup on Vei, Shenji's ex-girlfriend. They broke up because he realized she was fake. Vei tries to undermine Mem and get her fired, but Mem shows such talent that she ends up being rehired. During the show's taping, a contestant breaks several expensive items. Shenji appears furious and demands that she pay for the damage. Unable to afford the damage, the girl takes responsibility and mentions that, during the interview, she dropped a screw, which may have caused the accident. Mem tries to convince X to forgive her, but he refuses. Later, Mem accidentally bumps into a man who tries to react aggressively. Zenji intervenes and protects her with everything she has. Touched by her honesty, Shenji begins to fall for Mem. Overcome with jealousy, Vei makes another attempt to sabotage her and discovers that Mem lied during the interview to get the job. When confronted, Mem enters her other personality and assumes a strong, confident, and influential version, becoming a powerful influencer, leaving Shenji shocked. She then declares Shenji hers, and an open battle for his heart begins between the two. In a tense scene, Mem moves closer with intensity, and X feels an uncontrollable urge to kiss her. Veli, furious, watches as Mem begins to wear provocative clothing that turns Shenji on. In a comical and sensual moment, her hair gets stuck and he has to take off his shirt to help her, which only intensifies the tension between them. Mem then begins promoting the brand's products on her channel, generating a boom in sales. Shenji thanks her, saying she saved the company from bankruptcy. But the next day, Mem returns to her original self, feeling sad and embarrassed about everything that happened. Later, Shenji discovers that everyone thinks they're together because Mem had posted a photo of the two. Enraged, he demands that she admit she's been lying all along. At that moment, the psychiatrist steps in and explains Mem's disorder. Realizing she was too harsh, Zenji repents and begins helping her with the tasks she's been given as punishment. Senji apologizes, and Mem reveals the pain she carries because of the scar on her face. It's then that Sheng realizes that Mem is actually the same girl he accidentally injured as a child. The guilt weighs heavily on him. Later, V discovers Mem's scar and tries to publicly humiliate her, calling her ugly in front of Zenji. But Zenji reacts firmly, saying that Mem is much more beautiful than Vei ever was. At that moment, Mem changes personality once again and embraces Zenji as if they were a couple in love. They spend the day together, they eat something, stroll through a fair, and when Mem tries to kiss him, Zenji pulls away, embarrassed. Afterward, she says she'd like to watch fireworks with him. Wanting to save money, Zenji only buys a sparkler cane. Mem is disappointed. The next day, they go to work, glaring at each other during an interview. Mem taunts reporters by saying that Zenji is a terrible and explosive boss. In response, Sheng corners her in front of everyone and says he no longer has feelings for her. Vili then sets up a prank and puts glue on Mem's chair, but she trips and ends up getting a camera in her face. Shenji accuses Mem of causing the accident, but later discovers she was not at fault. Filled with remorse, Sheng shows up with a teddy bear, and with his heart in his mouth, begging for forgiveness. But Mem is hurt. He leaves devastated. The big makeup contest is approaching. Since Vei's face is bruised, Mem takes her place. During the event, she surprises everyone by removing her makeup and revealing her scar. The audience is shocked. Zenji rushes to her and shields her from the cruel stares. He carefully carries her to her bed and puts her to rest. The next morning, upon waking to find Zenji beside her, Mem is embarrassed and tries to leave. But he holds her hand and asks her to be his girlfriend. Mem refuses, still shaken, and apologizes to her colleagues for lying. Soon after, she begins receiving numerous gifts, all sent by Zenji. Men suggests they just stay friends. Zenji then invites her to his house. There, M gets nervous, thinking he might try to kiss her, but she ends up coming across several thank you letters written by orphaned and sick children. It's at that moment that she realizes Zenji isn't as cold as she imagined. In fact, he donates everything he earns to help these children. Touched, Men melts and tells him he's an extraordinary man. From then on, the two begin exchanging affectionate text messages, and Men smiles like never before. Afterwards, they go for a walk together. Cold, Men is surprised when Zenji offers her his jacket. During their conversation, he asks if her scar still bothers her. She says no, but when he tries to touch her, he recoils. Guilt eats at him. Men thinks he's ashamed of his scar and tries to hide it. Later, when some people make fun of her in public, Shenji firmly protects her and declares that he loves her just the way she is, and that the scar only makes her even more special. With this, Men begins to gain popularity. Veli completely changes. Her attitude approaches her as a friend, and even gives her her beauty queen crown. Shenji organizes a grand banquet for all the company employees. At the end, he takes Men to his house. But before they enter, he feels an urgent need to kiss her, and he kisses her intensely, exploring every detail of her moist lips. However, upon entering the house, Shenji comes across old photos of Mem as a child and discovers something disturbing. She is not the girl he had hurt as a child. Confused and shaken, Shenji leaves without explanation. Men tries to find him, but he begins to avoid her, saying he is busy, when in reality he is destroyed inside, suffering from the distance. Then Qin, Shengji's business partner, appears, a woman who has harbored feelings for him for years. Qin begins to meddle, tries to push Men away, and begins to humiliate her, inviting her to a party with ulterior motives. At the party, Men discovers that Qin sabotaged her by delivering a completely inappropriate dress. She becomes embarrassed in front of everyone. Shenji's expression changes, making Men so nervous that her personality shifts again. She enters the company with a dominant demeanor, acting as if she were the real boss. Shenji feels the impact of Mem's new self, authoritative, confident, and powerful. She stares at Zenji and declares that, from that moment on, he works for her. She harshly criticizes him, calls him emotionally empty, and even forces him to draw a bath. As she leaves, she puts her finger to his lips and teasingly tells him that his entire body now belongs to her. At the supermarket, she unexpectedly hugs him. Later, as they go to bed, Men grabs him by surprise. Shenji watches her affectionately, but quickly backs off when he realizes the situation is getting too heated. Under this new, determined personality, Men transforms the company, boosting sales and improving employee engagement. Shenji, increasingly fascinated by this version of herself, ends up completely smitten, to the point of becoming a true servant of love. Qin still tries to seduce him, but Shenji only has eyes for Men. When the time comes to face the investors, Shenji considers giving up, but Mi appears and declares that he is her boyfriend and the perfect man to lead the business. This restores Shenji's confidence, and Shenji dedicates himself so much to his work that he even sleeps in the office. When he wakes up, Men gives him a loving kiss on the cheek. She caresses his leg excitedly, and just as Shenji is about to surrender, to a passionate kiss, the lights come on. It was a surprise birthday party. Later, Men prepares to present a critically important makeup product. But driven by jealousy, Qin sabotages her speech, switching roles and causing Shenji to have an anxiety attack. At that moment, Shenji appears like a beacon in the darkness, offering unconditional support. Public confidence in the brand plummets, until Men summons the courage, applies makeup live using the new product, and manages to restore the company's reputation. On a quiet night, Men goes stargazing alone, but Shenji appears saying he wants to be with her forever. The two kiss with the purity of true love, and finally become an official couple. From then on, Sheng begins kissing M almost constantly, claiming that her lips are like his antidote. However, Sheng's father stands in the way. He says he won't accept the romance as Mem's scar would bring the company a bad name. Even so, Cheng ignores his father's opinion. For him, Mem is the light that illuminates his life. Kim, determined to separate them, brings another woman with a scar, claiming she is the real girl XJ hurt as a child. The idea is to make him forget M. Although, still in love with M, Shenji begins to feel confused and guilty about this new presence. The woman even says she wants to marry Zenji, but at that moment, Men suffers another emotional breakdown and ends up hospitalized. At the hospital, the charming doctor cares for her lovingly and spends a lot of time with her, which arouses Shenji's jealousy. Shengi begins to watch them everywhere, trying to prevent them from being alone. However, it soon becomes clear that Dr. Su is actually in love with Bailey. Desiring to win Men back, Shen throws a grand party for her and is enchanted by her beauty. But the scarred woman declares her love for Zenji, and when rejected, she turns against M and attacks her out of jealousy. In an unexpected gesture, Vei redeems herself and pushes the woman into the pool, revealing to everyone that her scar was fake. Then Sheng proposes to Mem, and she accepts with a sweet and moving kiss. The two become inseparable from each other, constantly exchanging caresses and loving kisses. However, Men overhears a conversation and discovers that Zenji was the one who caused the scar on her face as a child. Devastated, she decides to call off the wedding. From that moment on, she begins to avoid him in her own home and, at night, pushes him away from her bed, saying she no longer wants to feel his scent close to her heart. Shortly after, M suffers another anxiety attack and begins to believe they've been married for 10 years. She files for divorce, but Zeng feigns anxiety as well to convince her not to leave him. He shows off his toned body, wins her over once again, and Men reclaims his true essence, rediscovering his emotional balance. In that moment, she realizes that Sheng's feelings stem not from guilt over the scar, but from the purity of his love. The two formalize their marriage, and Sheng declares her the woman of his life. Touched, Men is moved, gives him her heart, and seals their union with a kiss full of eternity. Shin tries to sabotage the ceremony, but Veiya acts quickly and stops him with a well-aimed blow, ensuring that nothing else interferes with their happiness. Afterwards, Men and Sheng return to the same bus where it all began. But now, instead of hurt, there is affection, and they kiss sweetly. They visit their old school, climb up to the place where they forgave each other and shared their first kiss. And there they embrace like two hearts that have finally found rest. Mem was a young woman with a visible scar, and Sheng thought he needed to heal it. But he ended up discovering that true beauty resides in the soul. Because every kiss made Mem's heart shine like a divine sun. When two lost souls meet, all they need is the patch of love, capable of bringing the pieces together and leading them to the most beautiful paradise there is, the paradise of true love.